I'm going to talk about the fishing part of the European Union deal that Kier Starmer agreed on Sunday, Monday time at some point in the early hours perhaps. Now this fishing deal is the very worst part of the Brexit reset, in my opinion. Now there's a lot of fluff out there, particularly from Number 10, and Labour, to my mind, have sold our fishermen out. But with regard to the rest of the deal, I'm not going to cover the rest of the Brexit deal. I'll do a little bits in future, I think, because really it deserves a bit of depth and a bit of detail on each one, because as you quickly discover, there's so much going on in this deal that it can't really be summed up sensibly in the space of one video. And this is precisely one of my problems with it. Too much, too quickly, trying to nail everything in a pretty bow, and what's happened, last minute concessions, etc, etc, and what happens? Kier Starmer rolls over like a little puppy to have his tummy tickled, and then he comes out saying, oh, Britain's back on the world stage, and all the rest of that absolute nonsense. Now, one of these things that is particularly annoying when you're looking at it is how this is first of all being positioned by Number 10, and there was quite a few things that annoyed me on social media, but here is the most annoying. Now, if ever Labour were wanting to be classed as the party of the middle class, this is how they do it. They go on forever and a day about employment rights bills and looking after the working people and bringing the cost of living down. But at the first sign of trying to appear like they've got a win, what do? They appeal to their middle class voters, because you know why? That's all they've got left. So I'm sure middle class voters are going to love the fact that in the future you'd be to take your pet abroad to your second home in the south of France, or perhaps you want to whiz through the e-gates quicker. When in fact, this whole post is a lie, because there's no guarantees that you'll be to go through these e-gates, because it's down to each individual country. And when MPs have been challenged on this, they say, oh, but there's no reason why they wouldn't do that. Yeah, that's right. But there's no agreement that they have to. So the first thing is that when Number 10 are spouting out lies about this, like this post was a lie, this has a general feeling of it that you start to distrust the messages being pumped out by the government, as if there wasn't already enough distrust. If they're going to pump out garbage like this, then that's not going to help their cause at all. And of course, moving on from the social media frenzy that accompanied this, here's a little clip of Sarah Pochin, one of the newest Reform UK MPs, giving you her verdict on what's going on there.
French fishermen. This has been one of the most emotive issues for decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet again, France has managed to get their fishermen to stand up for their fishermen and get this deal through.
And we've been able to stand up for our food production industry.
Once again, the UK government has not stood up for its fishermen. And as I started with this conversation, Kier Starmer has sold out our fishing industry. It doesn't matter how you dress it up, that's a fact. And the French have won this battle, and it's very emotive. And there they are in our waters for the next 12 years.
Now, one of the things that does often get overlooked is how dangerous fishing is. And we tend to have a very, very romantic, if that's the right word, view of fishing and fishermen and how it's out there, but really, as jobs go, it's one of the more brutal ones, and it's highly dangerous as well. People do die, whole boats go down, and of course, when boats are put under huge financial pressure, as they are going to be in the future here, then what happens? Skippers take extra risks, because ultimately the crew wants the skipper to take the risk. The crew only gets paid when the fish is caught, and likewise the skipper. So if you've got slightly bad weather, whereas, you know, if a skipper who's worrying about safety first, they may be quite happy to go, oh, you know what, looks a bit dicey out there, let's not go there today. Well, if there's high winds and the seas is up, then they're more likely to go out and risk lives, risk boats, risk livelihoods for the sake of, Starmer, who's went and sold these people down the river, and it's going to be ever harder for them to do that. The video, in addition, that we're looking at here is a kind of a separate issue, which is to do with bottom trawling. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but French fishermen love to do this. What it in effect does, it lies the net on the bottom and it basically goes all the way down, and what they do, they rip all the way along the seabed, thereby destroying the ecology of the seabed, which is very, very fragile and precious. And when they do this, they in essence destroy the very, very delicate balance, the symbiotic relationship that the fish have with the bottom of, the sea where they live, and all of the plant life there, and everything there, all of the smaller bits of stuff that lives on the bottom of the sea gets ripped apart as well. And French fishermen love this. And, for a long time, people have been trying to get French fishermen to stop doing this. But of course, within this fishing deal, that wasn't covered because Starmer's not really bothered about any of that. He's also, it would appear like, missed out a vital component in this deal, because one would think, well, hang on, if you're doing a deal with fishermen and the EU's wanting not 4, not 6, 8, 10, they want 12 years, where there's a full deal for 12 years. And so they want that. Surely it would have been good time to smash the gangs, wouldn't it? It would have been good time to say, okay, I'll do this, but what we're going to do, when the Royal Navy picks people up in the Channel, we're going to dump them back on the French coastline, and then that ends all of the small boats and illegal migration. And some people would say, why isn't he doing that? And I'll tell you why he's not doing that. First of all, because he doesn't want to do it at the moment. He's a fan of open borders. But second of all, and as I think you understand, what's happened yesterday or the day before was only a part of a deal. It was only part of the deal. It wasn't the full deal. He's going to go back later on, and there's going to be a second round, a third round, and at some point, magically before the next election, guess what's going to happen? He's going to try to agree something along those terms to save his neck and to save the Labour Party from being destroyed in the next election. But I think he's already gone too far. He's already a sellout. And look at what people like Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch are making here. This is an official press release from the Tories, which I think does sum it up, quite simply and, in a really direct manner. I mean, what a surrender. They don't understand how to negotiate. And of course, here's Nigel Farage. And Farage hasn't really come out in public to sink his teeth into this as yet, but I'm sure that'll be coming down the pipe. And one of the more interesting social media posts that I saw is this. And what you'll notice is something very strange, and this is what the lefties are calling as a big win. Isn't it funny how people on the left wing of politics start turning into corporatists right when it suits their political agenda? All of a sudden, the corporations and the supermarkets, they're all tickety-boo. And there's a very short column of the against, and who are they? Ah, that's right. That's the main party in opposition, the party that's currently topping the polls in the UK and Scotland. So, yeah, there's only 3 names on there, but they're quite large additions to the sums there, aren't they? In short, I think you'll agree with me that what Starmer's done in a late concession during negotiations, he's sold our fishermen down the river quite literally. And it won't matter how many millions Starmer comes out to promise to regenerate the fishing industry. People, like fishermen, are hard-working men and women in some instances. And again, I know there's a popular thing relating to fisher people. So if you are a female fisher person, then please accept my apologies for using fishermen. It's just that a large percentage of people that go on these trawlers, a huge percentage are men. And so what's happened? These hard-working skippers and these hard-working crew, what they want to do, they want to go out and make an honest crust. And what Starmer's going to do, he's going to come out and say, oh, but the government's going to be handing you money. These hard-working people don't want government handouts. They want to make their living. It's a joke. He has destroyed the fishing industry, and outside of that, he's done it for 12 years. 12 years. It can't be renegotiated. And one of the more stunning aspects of Kier Starmer, the great negotiator, along with his team, he's made it so that when the next party comes into power, when Nigel Farage comes in, or Kemi Badenoch, or whoever it is comes in, and they want to come out of this stupid deal, it's written into the contract that the EU can sue Britain, the UK, and increase tariffs on our products if that's what we want to do in the future. So why would a British Prime Minister make it so that in future other people might want to renegotiate a deal? Why would he make it so that it would actually disadvantage Britain? It's quite incredible when you look at it from that perspective. This act of self-harm, this Prime Minister and this Labour Party, they're absolutely incredible. I don't think anybody could have believed that they would have been as bad as they have, but this, what they've done here, is unforgivable. And I think what they're doing, they're waiting to see what the public reaction to all this is going to be. Because if the public do not kick up a massive fuss, then what's happening the next time around, because there is a step 2 and a step 3 planned over Keir's premiership, if he makes it that long, and we're going to fully align with the EU. And they're going to go against the will of this people. He's just a despicable man, and I think he's moving towards the worst PM in history. Could be wrong about that, but, he's certainly making a play for that, isn't he? Anyway, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.